Today, we're also on the floor to talk about a different tragedy in the state of Indiana. On July 17, there was a terrible shooting that occurred at the Greenwood Park Mall, just miles from my home, resulted in the death of 3 innocent victims. Now, it could have easily been one of my neighbors or a friend, or I remind myself, it could have been a member of my family who passed away there in the food court on that very day. As this resolution that we're introducing today states, the United States Senate condemns this shooting and any violent action that seeks to bring harm to other individuals. We grieve the loss of fellow Hoosiers Victor Gomez and Pedro and Rosa Pineda, and we pray for their families. But we're also grateful for the heroes on the scene that day, for the first responders, for our healthcare workers, as well as a young man named Eli Dicken. Eli was in the food court that evening. He was legally carrying his own firearm, and when the shooting began, he used his weapon to bring down the shooter. Were it not for his poise during those brief moments, his brave and selfless actions, this shooting would have been far worse. So I ask all my fellow Americans to remember the victims and the heroes of this tragedy, and I urge passage of this resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Rise today to honor the memory of the victims of a senseless act of violence in Greenwood, Indiana, southern suburb of Indianapolis. The lives taken that day were enjoying what should have been a fun July day with family and friends. In a moment's notice, lives were changed forever when a deranged killer tragically took the lives of 3 people. This is happening far too often, and so often it seems to have something to do with mental illness. This is just another example of how it plays out in the real world. They will never be forgotten. This resolution also expresses hope for the full recovery of those injured in the attack as well. I want to mention the victims by name. I think that's important. Pedro Pineda, Rosa Marian, Rivera de Pineda, and Victor Gomez. You got to remember the people, their names, because this happens far too often. Within a mere 15 seconds of the shooter opening fire, a citizen by the name of Elisha Dicken, a 22-year-old from Seymour, Indiana, down in my part of the state, rose and stopped the rampage. Thank goodness for him. If not for his courageous action, the violence surely would have been much worse. I'm proud to acknowledge the young man, for defending himself and others in a valiant act of bravery in the face of unimaginable danger. Hoosiers are united in mourning for those lost in this senseless attack, and we pray for their families to find peace in the memory of their loved ones. Mr. President, I yield the floor.